When I rejoined The Verge in 2018, my first big assignment looked like an absolute peach. Fly to the gorgeous Hawaiian island of Maui, sip cool drinks on the sand. The Verge paid for my trip. We don't accept junkets, and become one of the first journalists to experience blazing 5G speeds at a Qualcomm event. Instead, I found myself exposing a lie. The first real-world 5G test turned out to be a dud, the speeds misleading at best, covering up the fact Verizon and AT. For the next 3 years, Verizon and AT were some kind of race. Their fastest 5G networks ran on a chunk of spectrum called mmWave that's speedy but so spotty you'd barely get a signal without a cell tower directly overhead. Meanwhile, powerful phone makers like Apple were complicit in rebranding LTE networks into things like 5G, helping carriers mislead customers into thinking they'd already rolled out the new networks. But it now seems the mmWave 5G carriers have been slinging from the start was just a gigantic head fake, a way to stay in the game until their actually useful 5G spectrum was ready. With the new iPhone SE, Verizon isn't demanding mmWave support. On Tuesday, Apple announced the 2022 iPhone SE, the first 5G iPhone for the United States that lacks the mmWave 5G that AT have doggedly insisted on for years. Instead of rejecting that iPhone or insisting that Apple make a special version for its mmWave network, Verizon will simply carry it. Verizon spokesperson George Coronios confirmed to The Verge that the company will stock it in stores. Why am I making such a big deal about something so normal? You need to understand that things have not been normal in Verizon land. Verizon pushed Google to create a version of its budget Pixel 4a 5G that cost $100 more to satisfy the carrier's ridiculous demand that phones support barely their mmWave. The Verizon version of Samsung's Galaxy S20 had less RAM and no microSD expansion so they could fit mmWave 5G. All of Apple's high-end iPhones have had tiny picture windows for mmWave if you buy them in the United States, and for what? Personally, I've experienced a Verizon mmWave 5G signal with my iPhone mini a total of once. Related. What's the difference between 5G, 5G+, 5G UW, and 5G UC? Wait, why the hell is the race to 5G even a race? Dear wireless carriers, the 5G hype needs to stop. Those are just the big tech companies. To my knowledge, every other smartphone manufacturer that sells phones in the US has been co-opted into producing exclusive 5G UW phones for Verizon as well, which has until now meant mmWave. It's been such a hard rule that when analyst Anshul Sag spotted the phone's spec sheet, he immediately raised the possibility that Verizon might not carry the new iPhone SE at all. Notice that the Hashy phone SE won't have mmWave #5G, so it might not be available on at Verizon https://t.co/hggd6w25dd. Anshul Sag, at Anshelsig, March 8, 2022. And yet, it will, because Verizon doesn't need to pretend it cares about mmWave anymore. In fact, the company's already rebranded away from it. Originally, cellular industry executives told me that mmWave was key because 5G needed to wow people with speed. But the joke since day one has been that it's a scavenger hunt. Fast when you find the one street corner where it works, but walk down the street or enter a building, and the signal evaporates. But this January 22, over the protests of the airline industry, Verizon flipped the switch on C-band 5G, a best of both worlds chunk of radio spectrum. With far longer range than mmWave and far better speeds than low-band 5G. After years of the industry promising that 5G would get better, Verizon's results suddenly looked great. And because Verizon loves to look great, it's already redefined its 5G ultra-wideband branding. Mid-band 5G is also 5G UW as of February. In January, the company's own website defining these terms read, 5G ultra-wideband is Verizon's highest-performing 5G. Our 5G ultra-wideband network uses high-band, mmWave, spectrum to deliver a top-of-the-line 5G experience. Today, it reads, 5G ultra-wideband is Verizon's highest-performing 5G. Our 5G ultra-wideband network uses high-band, mmWave, and mid-band, C-band, spectrum to deliver a top-of-the-line 5G experience. Funny, that. Yes, the iPhone SE supports C-band. But now that Verizon has reoriented its network around C-band, and invested heavily, $45.4 billion just for the spectrum alone, it has no more reason to push mmWave devices that barely deliver on 5G's promise. What it needs is for people's first 5G phone to actually give them a good 5G experience, and that's exactly what the new iPhone SE is poised to do. Those who upgrade from a previous model have the opportunity to go straight from LTE to C-band 5G. It is one of the first major phones to support C-band out of the box. I don't think we've seen the end of 5G marketing bullshit, mind you. You may wonder for a long time to come whether you're actually on Verizon's C-band or mmWave spectrum because of how the carrier now puts both of them under the same umbrella. There's still plenty of room for shenanigans in areas where coverage isn't as good as a carrier would like it to look too. That's been from the start. But at least we can stop pretending that barely their mmWave is the future. It only took 3 years, countless billions of dollars, an entirely different chunk of spectrum, and a lot of misdirection to make 5G a consumer reality, at least in densely populated cities and parts of cities around in this stream. The road to 5G. The biggest news on next-gen mobile networks. View all 78 stories.